Welcome to Heart, Soul, Mind, and Strength, where we work toward loving God with everything that makes us human. Well, it's time once again to celebrate the birth of our great nation, the United States of America. As we think about that, I'd like to take a quick look at a very particular part of our founding document and get a better idea of how the Founding Fathers thought so we can better understand them and what they had in mind when they first decided to break away from Great Britain. And before we get into that, I wanted to ask you a quick favor. This is an independent effort. I do all the production, the recording, the editing, the marketing, and all that. So I want to invite you to help support the show and continue to make things better by visiting buymeacoffee.com/greatcommandment. That's GR8 commandment, because again, I'm super clever. It's completely voluntary. You're still going to be able to listen to every episode for free, but I do appreciate any support you choose to give, and there will be a link in the show notes, so that way you don't have to try to remember the really super cool, clever web address. Also, in order to continue to reach more people, please share this show with everybody you know. And if you can, give it a great rating on your podcast app. That would really help as well. Plus, if you leave a comment or a question, you get to have a direct impact on the content of the show, since I'll probably end up responding to your feedback on a future episode. All right, enough announcements. Let's get to it. The Declaration of Independence is, probably without argument, the single founding document of the United States of America. Now, some would argue that it's the Declaration and the Constitution. However, America was created in 1776, recognized as a nation by our former parent country in 1783, and then it wasn't until 1787 that the Constitution defined the federal government and its powers as we know them today. So for this Independence Day, I wanted to take a look at a specific part of the Declaration and zoom in on it for a bit just to take a closer look. It's in the preamble in the second paragraph. We all know it pretty well. Well, maybe not all of us, but you guys probably all do. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Now, something I appreciate about our Founding Fathers is their intelligence and skill at being able to pack so much thought into so few words. And now, here I am doing an entire podcast on those few words, using far more words than are in the entire document. But then I never claimed to be nearly as smart as men like Thomas Jefferson. The first thing I wanted to point out was that the Declaration of Independence was formally titled the Unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. That word unanimous is fairly significant. Jefferson writes that all men are created equal, and every single delegate who signed his name on that document agreed to that sentiment. So I think it bears a bit of consideration, if you'll indulge me. Let me start by asking a question. What does it mean to be created equal? And by that, I mean, when we say that we're equal, in what way are we equal? Based on what follows this claim in Jefferson's writing, I would say that, at the very least, he meant that we all have the same unalienable rights. You know, the right to life, the right to personal property, the right to make our way in the world as we see fit, to set goals and pursue them in order to attain our own dream of what we would like our lives to be like, at least up until the point at which doing so would infringe on someone else's rights, in which case that's where the part comes in about governments being created to secure these rights. But let's not get too digressive. So what it comes down to is this. For example, if someone murders another person, they are to be prosecuted by the law regardless of who the person was whose life was taken or who it was that took that life. The system doesn't care who a person is. The system simply recognizes that one has certain rights by virtue of being human, and that we have various authorities in place whose job it is to enforce the protection of those rights for everyone. Now, the next question is a bit more complicated. If we're to say that all people have these same rights, and that the single factor for claiming these rights is that one is a human being, yes, other creatures have rights too, but none of them sign the Declaration. The question is, what is it about humans that causes us to have these rights? In order for us to claim these rights as humans, there must be some attribute or property that makes these rights real. If we start thinking about different properties, we can eliminate quite a few of them. I think we can count out things like height or eye color or shoe size right away. What about physical strength, hand-eye coordination, intelligence, wealth, athletic ability. None of these would work either. Not only are they trivial, but they're also properties that one can have to different degrees. And if we were to anchor our human rights to what's called a degreed property, let's say athletic ability, then you could actually make the argument that LeBron James is more entitled to his human rights than I am to mine because he's far superior to me in that category. So what could it be? What do all humans have in common that is, one, not arbitrary but significant, and two, not a degreed property but held equally by all humans? There's only one thing I could think of that would work. In fact, Thomas Jefferson alluded to it in the passage we looked at above. One thing we all share in equal amounts that's substantial enough to make us valuable and establish rights to all human creatures is that we are all made by the same Creator. Now, the scriptures actually take it a step further. We not only were created by God, but were made in his own image. Look at Genesis 1:27. People far more intelligent than I am have pointed out the fact that if you want to understand the ideas and philosophies that created the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution and our federated republic that's designed to be, as Abraham Lincoln noted, of the people, by the people, for the people, then you must have a firm grasp on Christianity, what it is, what it teaches, its worldview, how it informs our lives, our ethics, and our politics. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a Christian, only that you understand what it means, or at least understand what it meant to the people who signed that original document. Now, sadly, our understanding of Christianity has changed dramatically in the past 200 years or so. Because of the ideas of people like G.W.F. Hegel, Karl Marx, Charles Darwin, and a whole bunch of others, our understanding of Christianity has been severely altered from what it had been for the first 1800-ish years. Even among many who attend church regularly, there are quite a few very misguided and uninformed ideas about what it means to be a Christian. Now, I don't want to make this a sermon, but I do want to encourage you to take some time to understand the minds of the men and women who built this country. I'll be putting a number of links in the show notes for some great resources that you can access in order to understand them better, and understand better why we had to break away from Great Britain, why they set up our republic the way they did, why they drafted and ratified the Bill of Rights. In the meantime, I hope that you, at the very least, take a moment on Independence Day to remember how we got where we are. Remember the men who pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to implement the republic that still stands to this day. Happy Independence Day, everyone. Thanks for listening to Heart, Soul, Mind, and Strength. I hope this episode sparked some challenging thoughts for you. Now, don't forget to stop by the website, sign up for email updates, and that way you're always the first to know about new content. Also, check out the resources page for books and podcasts and other such things that can help you dive deeper. I typically add something new with each episode. In the show notes, you can find links to the website, the YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, resources, and any other links that I thought were relevant. All right, until next time.